As a kid, I was raised God-fearing, but then I started asking questions really early, so much that I got in trouble a lot of times by the leaders of the church. I was a nature lover. My spirit lived in the trees. I remember going with my mom out in the front yard and saying, "Can we just sit and look at the trees and talk about the trees?" Amazingly, my mother spent weekends with me at school and just would spend the night and we would talk about philosophy versus her understanding of spirit and God and religion. And all of a sudden, I felt this warmth encompass me. And I heard this beautiful voice. And she said, "Sister, ocean on the left, mountain on the right, keep walking." I think that was Hele. I've given my higher self a name. I call her Claire. When things are uncertain or I'm nervous about something or whatever, I'm like, "Girl, you go first. I'm right here."
Welcome to the Spacious Unknown. I'm your host, Kat BUCCIANTINI. This podcast is a place where stories of spiritual lives can be shared, especially those that are a little unconventional. Stories shaped by curiosity and doubt, tenderness and intuition, grief and joy, and the quiet practice of inner listening. Before we begin, a gentle note. Spirituality is alive and always unfolding. What you hear now is one moment in time, one expression of someone's path. I invite you to listen with grace, curiosity, and a tenderness that leaves room for nuance rather than neat conclusions. Today, I'm joined by MADISON, and I invite you to settle in as we explore the shape of her journey. If you've been feeling the pull to slow down, to listen more deeply, to make sense of where you are in your life, I want to invite you into something I'm offering this year. It's called Meeting Yourself in Every Season. It's a monthly retreat series where we explore the emotional and spiritual wisdom of the natural world and how it mirrors our own inner lives. Together, we'll move through the second half of the year, summer, autumn, and into winter, paying attention to things like fullness, ripening, release, anger, grief, and stillness. Each gathering includes guided reflection, embodied practices, and spacious conversation. There's no pressure to believe anything in particular, just a willingness to notice what's unfolding within you. You can come to one session or join the whole series. Wherever you enter, you will be welcomed. If this resonates, you can learn more and sign up through the Prairie Retreat using the links in the show notes. The earth is always speaking. This is an invitation to listen. Welcome, MADISON. It's nice to see you and hear from you today. And so why don't we start a little bit with what your life situation looks like right now?
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here. My life situation, wow, that's a big question. Lots of hats. I wear lots of hats. And so today's hat is to take care of admin stuff for the business and do some writing and start connecting with the weekend because the weekend is upon us. So I like to kind of have my world set up in chunks of energy. So today I'm in admin and writing energy. Tomorrow I'll be in a different energy with real estate. I do real estate on the side, so that's kind of my fun venture. But then during the week, I'm also a counselor, a licensed social worker. So I see clients midweek and then do a lot of writing ventures and fun things during the gap time. So lots of hats. That's kind of how the situation is at this point.
Yes, thank you. So I like to start us off with a little centering and grounding. So I'll just invite you, and if you're listening and it's safe for you to do so, I invite listeners as well to close your eyes or to just find a place where your eyes can rest without distraction. Well, we're just going to start with some deep breaths. So taking those breaths in through your nose, and then letting them out through your mouth with a sigh. Just letting any tension or anxiety or worries just kind of go with that exhalation. And then just start to notice the air around you, the way it touches your skin, its humidity or dryness, its temperature.
The air here is very humid, but cool this morning. So a little bit heavy, but also breezy.
And then just allow your ears to pick up any sounds that are being carried to you in that air.
There are pine trees blowing in the background, and birds are chirping like wildfire. Cardinals, Carolina wrens mostly. The cardinals are quick chirps. Sometimes they sing out, but the Carolina wren has a little bit of a tune, a little song.
Mm. And then turning your attention to the space around you. Are you noticing any sounds in your immediate space?
My cat is grooming. He's slurpy. He's not a delicate groomer, so he's quite loud.
And so turning your attention to your body and the places where it touches the space around it. So those textures and pressures, what are you noticing there?
I have a new green velvet chair that swivels, and so that's underneath me. And I always have my fuzzy blanket in my lap when I work, so the fuzzy blanket's on my lap.
Just noticing the support beneath you, holding you up and extending all the way to the earth itself, allowing yourself to rest in that embrace for a moment, knowing that there is nothing for you to do right now but rest. And then returning to your breath as you breathe in through your nose, what kind of scents are you noticing being shared with you?
My ears typically ring, but they got louder, which is a sign of connection for me. And there's tingling in my fingertips. I was doing mudra while we were talking, so that starts to get buzzy.
So following that breath down into your throat a little ways, just noticing what tastes are lingering in the back of your throat, in your mouth, on your tongue.
Probably the chocolate from my protein coffee. It's actually really good. It's a bone broth chocolate that's very smooth and sweet.
Hmm. Bone broth chocolate. That's hard to imagine what that would taste like.
Tastes like chocolate milk.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So following that breath down into your lungs, allowing yourself to notice the ways that your body moves to accommodate the air entering and exiting, and just sitting with that for a moment. And then turning inwards, I want you to find a place of stillness in your body, just noticing where you're holding it today.
It's really like solar plexus area, just kind of a calm, warm center. Yellow always pops out with solar plexus, but this is, I think, a little more orangey, kind of mixed in,
Mm.
like a satin.
Satin.
Yes.
I just invite you to breathe into that stillness. And before we open our eyes, I'm just going to have you imagine what it would be like to open your eyes like a sunrise. So when you do open your eyes, you'll open them really slowly, kind of letting a little bit of light in at a time and taking in what you can see around you, what stands out at each little bit of opening.
Mostly the colors. My microphone is colored. I have lots of fabrics in my room that's colored. The pink, the purple, and the blue are standing out. Bookshelf full of books that are my friends. Big screen on the wall so that I can see different sceneries during the day when I look up instead of just seeing a blank wall. My little altar with all my goodies on it, all my special things. A collection of Smurfs
Mm.
that I was gifted. Just lots and lots of colors, lots of angel things, bird things, my shamanic wall of things. Very eclectic, I guess.
What's a shamanic wall of things?
It's on the back of my door, actually. There's a bathroom attached to this room. So there's on the back of the door, I have a hanging rack, and it has just all the items that I've collected for Huna, my spiritual journey with my Hawaiian shamanic folk, and things that I used in ceremony. And so, and other things that other shamanic type people have gifted me. So, yeah.
That's what you shared as your image, yes.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
see. Like you're listening, the cover image of the podcast and is got an image of that. So, and your background is really pretty. It looks like almost like the circles that you find in peacock feathers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of peacock feathers.
Kind of a tree of life thing is actually just a fabric.
Mm. Yeah, I saw what looks like a branch. I'm like, I don't know if that's a tree, but it looks like a peacock tree, basically. It's the best way to describe it. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Madison. I appreciate your sharing everything. And so I'm curious about your early spiritual experiences. How did you experience spirituality as a child? A lot of times people associate it with their religion, or they talk about their religion, and it may not be associated with that at all. So I just want to make space that it doesn't have to be about your childhood faith, but specifically what spiritual experiences did you have growing up, and what do they look like throughout your life? Yeah, give us an idea of what that spiritual journey has been for you.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey, actually. It's as a kid, I was raised in the South and very devout is not the word, very committed to the church. My mother was very committed to the church, and every time the doors were open, we showed up. And as luck would have it, they called it a free will Baptist church, which I found later was not the case. Um, the free will didn't really match the name, or the practice. So, as a kid, I was raised God fearing, I guess is the best way to put that.
Hmm.
But then I started asking questions really early, like as early as 5 or 6, especially at 7. I started getting I questioned so much that I got in trouble a lot of times, not by my own parents, but by the leaders of the church because I was causing trouble, asking too many questions. I've, I've always been very curious and I want to know why. If you tell me something, that's good. I'm good with that, but I need to know why. And the whys were not a good combination with that particular upbringing. But I learned that the why was necessary. It was absolutely necessary. And if somebody couldn't tell me why, then I needed to question the source. And so that kind of became a theme for me growing up. And I guess has still continued to carry through because I've always been just very curious about things. But looking back on it, not knowing what it was then, of course, but looking back on it, I was a nature lover. My spirit lived in the trees sitting. I remember going with my mom out in the front yard and saying, "Can we just sit in the chairs and look at the trees and talk about the trees?" And she's like, "Sure, I don't know what we're doing, but good. Let's bring the chairs." And she accommodated all of my whims. And, I've always been more connected to nature as spirit. And of course, that's a God piece for me. That's not separate from my understanding of God. It just is. It's one and the same for me. So, yeah. So my journey had started off having to question everything and led me into fast forward to college. Thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I was told quickly that did not excel at math and science. So I probably needed to rethink that. And I was told by someone very wise to pick something that you just love to do. So I chose philosophy. And so philosophy let me continue that questioning and that what is this? What does it mean? Why do we do this? How do we get past that? And so philosophy helped me kind of, I don't know, the way I like to kind of visualize it is like my whole puzzle up to then. I got to take all the pieces and crumble them up and jumble them up and mix them up and throw them back out on the table and then put it back together how it fit for me. All the beliefs, all the thoughts, all the conditioning, just crumble it up and put it back together like my own tapestry instead of the prefabricated cut puzzle that it needed to be. amazingly, my mother came and sat with me and spent weekends with me at school and just would spend the night and we would talk about philosophy versus her understanding of spirit and God and religion. We had some beautiful conversations about that. And she was very open to just, of course, push back a little bit, but was like, oh, well, there's a different way to think. I never thought about it. And it was a cool experience. So that was very healing to have those moments with her.
Yeah. It sounds like it was such a gift for her as a parent to have that openness and acceptance of you as you are without these. I'm sure there's some expectations, but it didn't feel like you didn't have that space to really be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very important for both of us. And then she went on her own path in a different way, and not to divert from her belief system, but just broadened it. I think, you know. So yeah, that was the beginning of that. Around 98 ish, I moved to Hawaii. I was previously married to someone who had a job in Hawaii, and we went there. And while I was out there, I learned so much about myself that I didn't even know I was learning at the time. I was just living it. But I went for a hike with some friends on Kilauea, and it's now completely blowing up. But back then it was crusted over, it was dormant, so you could actually hike all the way across it. And we went for a hike out there, and there were what they call skylights. They're like little pockets that are open crusted so you can kind of see the red glow underneath, which is where you don't want to step. And so we walked all the way out to this barrier space and it says, "Do not cross here. Like danger, we're not going to come pick you up if you cross this barrier." And of course my friends were like, "Oh, we're going to go over there. That'll be fun." And I'm like, "No, we don't. The people that rescue you said don't do that." And I'm not doing that because I don't know where I am and I'm not gonna die here. So they went ahead after giving me a bunch of grief about being, a slacker or a weenie or whatever. Like, you can come on, you can tough it up." I don't wanna tough it up. I wanna be alive." So I stopped and they went on, and I turned around and I started to walk back toward the opening, and it got really dark really fast because we were on the other side of the mountain, and so when the sun sets, it still has plenty of time to set, but it goes down below the mountain and you can't see. It starts getting dark on that side. And I had this was back in the day when we didn't have anything but, like, video cameras, like, actual handheld video cameras, and I had a little light on that when it died, and I had a cell phone, but it didn't have no flashlights on the cameras, I mean, on the cell phones. I had a half a bottle of water, and I was walking back, and it's hot, and I have ocean on my left-hand side, I can hear it, so I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna just keep the ocean on my left, keep the mountains on my right, I gotta keep moving." To get back to the blacktop where our cars were parked so that I could get to safety and not be on that mountain by myself. And I had a panic attack. I've never had a panic attack in my life until then, and my heart started beating so fast, and I was sweating, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're not gonna make it. I don't know what I'm doing." And I wanted to sit down, but you can't because some of that lava is very jagged and it'll cut you like glass. And so I thought, "Oh no, I don't know what to do." And all of a sudden I felt this warmth, like a big grandma with a big blanket coming up behind you. And I just felt this warmth encompass me. And I thought, "What in the world is going on?" And I heard this beautiful voice and in this very Hawaiian accent kind of, and she said, "Sister, ocean on the left, mountain on the right, keep walking. You're good, keep walking. Ocean on the left, mountain on the right, keep walking." And I just felt like this presence was holding me and just helping me forward. And when I got to the edge of the blacktop, where the blacktop meets the lava, because it had run over into the street the last time it had gone off, I just kind of collapsed. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I made it." Like, how in the world did I do this? And in retrospect and looking back on on that day and that moment, I realized I think that was my connection to the volcano. I feel like that was Pele, the goddess of the volcanoes. I really feel like she was like, "Girl, we gotta go." And if you can call it a spiritual awakening, if anybody could have had a spiritual awakening, that was kind of it for me. that was kind of my tie to, yep, I'm connected to nature, and she heard me. She she got me the heck off that volcano, and then it took, like, an hour for my friends to show back up. By that time, I was in such a different realm, I didn't even care what they were doing. I was just, like, amazed that I'm alive, but then I had this beautiful experience. It was crazy.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. I love that she was there and she guided you and that warmth and voice and the fact that you wouldn't have experienced that if you had just gone along with your friends, you know? I mean, it would have been very different. And
I still probably would have had a panic attack because I didn't wanna cross that barrier,
yeah.
and it would have been for a complete different reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has continued to shape your spirituality since then?
Everything. I went on to learn about Huna, which is a Hawaiian philosophy of it has shamanic background, but it's just good tenets of living. It's good ways of being. It's loving nature and loving now and finding yourself in all of that and finding ways to pass on the aloha, the goodness in the world. That has been a big, big part of it. I went on to get a doctorate in theology and multi-faith spirituality and spiritual direction. That was almost like and it wasn't I just kind of fell into it. One of my colleagues said, "Hey, this school and we're doing this thing." And I said, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like fun. I'll do it with you." So we did, and I don't know why I just did. It just felt like that happens. Like it just falls in your lap and you go, "Yeah, let's do that." And it turns out to be one of the best things, you know? So I did that and the 2 of us wrote an oracle deck that has a lot of multi-faith spiritual components to it. That was our big capstone project for our school, for our doctorate. And it was, that whole experience has been really transformative because I realized if I get quiet enough and I connect in the right way, I can really channel in some good information and just put it out in the world. And not to sound woo woo, because everybody is capable of doing this. It's just intuition, it's just receiving, it's just allowing. There's nothing extra special about anything that I've got going on except that I'm just allowing it to happen, letting it come through me is the best way I can put it. That was transformative. That program was actually, it felt like a bigger extension of my philosophy degree. It let me pull that philosophy into the spiritual world and connect the 2, and it locked a lot of things in for me. So that has been a big piece. And I never thought I needed to go get a doctorate. It wasn't for career choice or career modification. It just felt like it needed to happen. So that was a big one for me. But now I just kind of live it. I'm just kind of doing it every day as much as I can bring in, and I get busy and I forget and I get disconnected too, just like everybody else. But, when I get a chance to go to nature, that's when I really fully reconnect again. So,
Yeah, walk us through a little bit of what a day that you feel like was a good day, but also typical. What does it look like for you? What does your day look like? Where does your spirituality play with the rest of the way that you're living your life?
upon waking, I'm like everybody else. I try to figure out where my world is and what's going on in my email. But then I shut that off for a minute and I have a sunroom that has a big comfy chair and it's right next to the bird feeder. And that is my favorite place to go and just good morning to the world, because the cat usually is with me. He's very intuitive. He follows me around like a puppy and his name is Jasper. Jasper goes with me wherever I go and he's my little transformation cat. He's my grounding rod. So usually he's with me when I'm doing this and I'll go out in the morning and sometimes I'll write haiku. I love haiku. Haiku has always been my like place to get either process something or express something or maybe set the tone for the day depending on what time of day I'm writing. I had a practice for a long time where I would just get my coffee and my old cat Moxie would come with me. I've always had these intuitive cats. He would come and sit with me and we would write haiku first thing in the morning while drinking coffee. And so I started a little website called haikuandcoffee.com and it has if you ever want to just go play, it's all of my all of my haiku forever and a day. I would just post them on WordPress and just have it out there just cuz I it was fun. But now that has kind of morphed. My writing piece has kind of morphed into my Substack. I have all these things that I've learned and acquired, and I feel like I need to put it out there somewhere for people to grab hold of. And it's not original information from me. It's well, some of it is, but a lot of it's things I've brought in from philosophy and from psychology and from spirituality, all from wise people in my world who have just told me things and I remembered them. So I started a Substack called In Tune Musings. And so my musings are out there. I post 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 times a week, depending on how the world goes. And so that's really my outlet. That's one of my bigger practices right now is just making these pieces of content and just disseminating to whomever wants to pick them up and play with them. It's really just a sandbox for my brain, if nothing else. But then also gardening. I have a tomato garden, well, and an herb garden, and I do a lot of things outdoors where that just even if it's just in the backyard, it's connection, it's nature, it's dirt. A hammock in the trees is a great place to do some of the practices. I do use tarot quite often just to kind of track my how am I doing and what's going on. And it's not used for any kind of fortune telling or anything. It's just like my connection to the cards helps me focus on what needs focused on that week. So I typically will do a reading once a week and just kind of set the tone for the week. I use a lot of crystals and essential oils just because they're just my friends. They're just my additional pieces of I don't know go to. That's just my go to. But it depends on what the day is and how things are shaping up. But there's something woven in every day.
Hmm. Do you have any presences or energies or beings that you connect with spiritually?
I've I've given my higher self a name just because I let her go forward sometimes when I just don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I call her Claire, and I called her Claire before I realized, oh, well, that's clairsentience and clairgustance and clairvoyance.
Mm.
Her name is Claire. It was a name that I was originally going to name a child of mine if I ever had children, and I did not. So I let her just come forward. Claire's my inner higher self. And so when things are uncertain or I'm nervous about something or whatever, I'm like, girl, you go first. I'm right here. Like I'm following you because it's all me, right? It's still just me. But outside of that, I'm very attuned to earth things because I think because of the Pele experience, if a volcano is going off somewhere in the world, something's happening inside my body. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I go do some research and I'm like, oh, look, that one's blowing. I don't know where that came from. It just kind of started clicking in. So yeah, there's a lot of connection to earth movement. And I think the collective as well, because right now everything is so heavy in our collective. And I feel the waves of that pretty strongly. I really have to do not a shielding, but just kind of getting back into my energy to separate out from the collective waves sometimes because sometimes that can be a little heavy. So,
How do you do that? How do you separate out?
it's just knowing your own energy versus what's not yours. And that's been a work in progress. It still is a work in progress. Is this me or is there something bigger than that going on? Right. To be simple about it, and this is something I tell a lot of my clients, just find your feet, wiggle your toes, get in your body, click your fingers together. Like be back in here and go, okay, is this me? And then check yourself. What's going on around me? Is there anything that I need to pay attention to? Or is this just something I'm picking up on? You know?
Yeah. How does it feel different in your body when it's something else that you're picking up on and when it's you?
It feels heady. It feels like it's coming from my mental state and it feels like it's pushing me instead of because if it's just me, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the whole body. I'm feeling it from head to toe. But if it's something that's not attached to me, it's usually me trying to make brain sense of it. And then it's just a heavy push. Like something's leaning up against you that doesn't belong, you know? I don't know. Does that make sense? That's the best way I can explain that.
That's a great description. Yeah. Yeah. I want to know more about Claire and your higher self. I'm curious what that looks like for you internally and what it feels like. Maybe describe a situation where you let her lead and what that was like.
I've had a lot of change happen in my life, a lot of life circumstances that have given me the opportunity and kind of forced me at the same time to just choose something or make a big decision. And when those big decisions come up, that's usually when I go, okay, it's your turn. This is bigger than me. I need you to help out here. And that, of course, is brought in with, I call them all out: God, angels, archangels, Claire, healed ancestors. Please, the healed ancestors, not the non healed ones. Let them stay where they are. Ask for the best help, right? But Claire gets grouped into my team. It's just Team Madison. This is, y'all, come on. I need your help. The things that are bigger than I want to sit and try to parse out for myself. I'm just, and it just is, it's my version of faith. It's my version of I'm trusting that something's gonna happen here that's gonna be in my best interest because I can't make brain sense of what's happening.
Mhm.
Usually that's when it kicks in.
What does it feel like when that happens, when you turn that over? How do you feel?
It's like a heart pull. It's like a connection, like you can just feel w like, "We got you," like a little heart hug. "We got you. You don't have to know what this is. Just let's go."
You feel held and supported, and maybe there's some kind of relaxing into that.
I don't say relaxing as much, but maybe just, "Okay, here we go." It was I'm going.
Yeah, it's just pure intuition at that point. You're just like, I'm not gonna try and make sense of it. I'm just
Yeah, it's like a velocity that starts happening, and my feet are moving before I know it. Oh, we're doing this now. Okay, good. Yeah. There's a lot of trust that has to happen there, and it's not come easy. I've had to really develop that, but,
yeah. Where do you find community and support for your spiritual life?
I have a really tight circle of not a large circle, but a tight circle of people who are very much in my mindset. I have my partner actually is one of my biggest supporters. He is promotes whatever feels right for me and just, yeah, do that. Really close, good friends that can go with me to pretty much any place that I would want to go to retreat or to do a creative project or whatever. Somebody in that group is going to be like, yeah, let's do that. Let's go.
Mm.
But also there to support when any of us need to talk about stuff or process things. We all have things that happen, and you can't just say all the things from a spiritual standpoint to just anybody. It has to be a sacred connection that is supported. So it's so nice to have that. And my older sister, is one of my biggest and first best friends. And she's very much aligned with where I am too. So that's very good.
You mentioned that really powerful experience on the volcano, and I'm wondering if there's been other moments in your life that you would feel are like transcendent or just moments of awe and wonder that you've really felt a strong connection to your spirituality, to your higher self, to whatever you're connecting with.
Yeah, I mean, several, many, many. I'll tell you a most recent one. This past weekend. A girlfriend had told me about a place nearby that was, it's called the Hostel in the Forest, and it's coastal Georgia. And she said, there's this retreat place right down the road from where you are. You should check it out. Have you been holding out on me? I'm like, no, I didn't know. So I looked it up and they had a writer's retreat that they were offering last weekend. And I was like, I'm going. And unfortunately, she didn't get to join me, but I went and again, didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I'm not that spontaneous. I really am not, but I just felt drawn. Let's go. So I packed my stuff and went. And it was the most transformative thing that I could have imagined. Nothing in my expectation was met because I had no expectation. It was completely open nature, rudimentary. We literally lived in a shared hostel space that was like a big screen porch. It didn't have walls. It was amazing.
Mm.
Breeze and birds and armadillos rustling around in the leaves at night that you thought was like the big bad monster or something. It was
Yeah,
just,
yeah, vanilla. Sounds much louder when you're trying to sleep.
and when it's quiet in the woods, yeah. I met people, and it was the most crazy experience with I'm 53, and I looked around and said, "Oh gosh, all these people that are showing up to this thing are in their 30s." Well, the leader was in her early 30s. She had a lot of people that were wanting to come to her event, and so I looked up and realized I was the older girl in the room, and I thought, "Oh no, this is not gonna be fun." But I stuck it out. I was like, "You know what? It doesn't matter. We're all just people. We all just like to write and we love nature. We've got a common thread here. Let's just stay. And I met probably 10 of the coolest zillennials that you will ever meet. And they just embraced me being there just like I was. And we had a great retreat. There was writing, there was laughing, there was crying. We did a poetry slam at the end. It was so much fun. And it was feet in the dirt, walking around like a bunch of fresh hippies. It was just fun. They had a chicken coop, and this is one of my connections, one of my big connections. They have a chicken coop there. And I immediately, as they were giving me the tour, this is where you're going to be, this is where everything is. And I'm like, if y'all don't find me for the next 3 days, come look at the chicken coop. I'll probably be over here because I love chickens. I used to raise them. And I just being there in that space with those birds and all the other birds in the forest, but specifically being with the chickens, I was home. It was just back home, you know? It was a great experience this past weekend and highly recommended if anybody ever wants to just go to the woods, but be prepared because the restroom is in a tree house 2 stories up with a spiral staircase to get there. So it was a test. It was a real test, but it was fun. It worked out. The people were fantastic there though. And I think just allowing myself to be vulnerable and just show up and not know what I was getting myself into. That's just not what I usually do, but I did. And I'll probably do it more again because it actually turned out to be a really good experience. So,
Yeah. You mentioned that it felt like home to be with the chickens. And what is home? What does that feel like for you?
yeah, I've moved around so much. I don't have a steady understanding of that. I'm just kind of home wherever I go, wherever I've landed, wherever my books are, my cat is, my partner is, my stuff, wherever my stuff is. And that weekend, I had taken enough stuff with me to probably be gone for a month, and I fully overpacked. So I had all my stuff, and I was able to go walk around and be free. And I think maybe that's it. Be free, free to just walk about the cabin with no encumbrances and just be yourself. No makeup, hair messy. Who cares? Feet are dirty because you're walking around in sand and chickens. It's fine. Nobody was judging. There was no judgment. So no judgment and freedom and having my stuff around me close enough by that I feel like that I can do whatever I want to now, you know?
Mm, yeah. And you had the familiar with you and unfamiliar space, but with people who similar ways of making meaning in the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
As art and music and poetry and chickens.
And chickens. What inner truths, things that you follow that guide you on how to live a good life?
I think first and foremost, integrity is a big one for me. That's that's one of the first things that I hold on to because no matter who's looking or not looking, I'm going to act the same way towards whatever it is, you know? Congruence, I think, is a big deal too. Showing up like you show up. Of course, we all have filters. Of course, we all have to be professional in different settings or more open in different settings. And that's just a variation of who you already are. But I think congruence is a big one because if you met me in the grocery store, you met me online as your therapist or as a real estate agent, it doesn't matter. I'm still me, right? And I may be dressed differently. I'm probably wearing, sloppy clothes in the grocery store and not if I'm in a professional setting, but I'm still me. So that's a big one. Beliefs. I just believe that people are inherently available to be good. And I know a lot of people want to have guilty until proven innocent kind of mindset. I've always just been on the other side of that. Despite the way things are shaping up in the world right now, people have the ability to do their best. If their choice changes and it goes in a different direction, then that's where my opinion of things change is your choices have led you down this way, you know? So I'm very much cup half full and innocent until proven guilty. Despite having had life experiences that should have led me in a different direction. I should have just flipped over the other side, you know? But it's just my inherent being that just y'all just do right and let's just live peaceably, you know?
Yeah. So I like to ask people what
big questions they're sitting with. They're little questions. What questions are you sitting with? Meaning making questions, spiritual questions. Religion answers a lot of questions that we have about life. I think that's one of the comforts it provides to its followers. Where are we from? And what happens after we die? And why are we here? And I'm curious what questions you are holding right now.
I don't know if it's really a question, it's more of a pondering, looking at how things are in our macro world right now. It makes me wonder, how can certain things occur in the world that we have that has so much potential for doing right? How can so much wrong be happening? But then the other part of me goes, well, everything has a yin and a yang, and a little bit of each mixed into the other side. And I think in order for me to reconcile in my own mind why things are occurring like they are in the world, everything has to take this contrasted shift cycle, if you will, to clear out and start anew. And so maybe one of my bigger questions is, what's next? Because this is a lot that we're dealing with right now. What's behind this? What's coming after this that we hopefully are going to have a clearing of some sort? A tower moment, so to speak, if you look at the tarot, to clear the rubble out and let's build this again because it's too much right now.
Yeah. I like that image of the yin and the yang. I'm just thinking of it starts at this kind of small pinpoint and then it slowly grows until it's in this huge bloated circle. And then as it's doing that, there's a small pinpoint of the opposite happening that is also going to grow. And so, like, depending on, and yin and yang isn't necessarily good and evil, but it's change. And so, like, as we're in this, what feels like a very bloated time in our life, the awareness that there is a pinpoint happening and it's growing is very comforting, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the contrast is more, I don't think it's necessarily good and evil with the yin and yang. I think it's more, I mean, of course, it's masculine, feminine energy if you go to the source of it, but it's the black and the white is very contrasted. And if you just look at all the chaos that's happening right now as direct contrast as to what we actually want to be living,
Mhm.
we're living in contrast right now. We're living in the negative of the film, if I'm gonna age myself for a second. We're in the negative image of the field, we're not in the positive image of the field. Everything is it's looking through a whole different lens right now, so, eh, I feel like that yin and yang is gonna eventually topple over, and the black is gonna go to the bottom and the white's gonna go to the top, or the white's gonna go to the bottom and the black's gonna go to the top. I don't We're not balanced right now. Something's gotta change. And then to see that chaos happening on a macro level, and then to go places like where I went this past weekend to the woods, there was no chaos. Nobody even was judgy about the other person's hairstyle. I mean, nobody rolled. These are 30-year-olds, and nobody went, "Oh my God, did you see her?" That was not a thing. That was totally not okay. It was such a collective. These are such interdependent people, but also collective people, and it was just amazing to watch. And I thought, we need to get all of that and concentrate it and then multiply it and then spread that out in the world because that's exactly what we need right now.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm finding that in small pockets all over the place. There's small pockets all over the place, and even though it's mostly shown in the news and social media and is the loudest voice, there are so many more small voices that are quieter, not small, but quieter voices that are developing their spaces all over the world. So,
And that happens in my little friend group, in my circle of my people. I see it in other people's little pocket, like you said, little pockets everywhere. We need to somehow find those pockets and connect them somehow because then it would make this big, huge tapestry of goodness that we're not seeing collectively right now. So yeah,
yeah.
to know that those little things are out there though. And I think the yin and the yang contrast thing is like so much chaos is going on. But if you go to your center, your group, your pocket, even just within yourself, you can find that stillness again. You can find that calm. You can find that you can still be positive. You can still be hopeful.
Hmm. Yeah. I I mean, for me, I've had to look for it, pay attention to that. If you're looking for if you're only looking at the chaos, you're not going to notice the other stuff. You're just going to continue to see the chaos because that's what you've trained yourself to find and see. And so looking for the goodness and the stillness and the connectedness and interdependence, those things are there in abundance, but you have to start looking for them.
You have to say yes to the thing you didn't think you needed to go to. You just stay when you think you're not accepted because you just might be. You just are blocking yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back a little bit in your story to you mentioned Hawaii and the shamanic community that you had there. And I was just curious to hear a little bit more about what that was like for you, who you interacted with there, and what was that for you?
You know, I had just had a big life change and I came back to my hometown and moved into my sister's home for a little while just to regroup. And I was on this journey of just look for the truth for myself. What is my truth right now? And I bumped into this thing called Huna. I had heard about it. I had read some things about it, but I didn't quite know what it all was. There was a guy named Jonathan Hammond who wrote a book called The Shaman's Mind and or The Way of the Shaman. I'm mixing my books up. There's too many people. He studied under Serge Kahili King, who is the leader of the teacher. Let's call him teacher. We don't ascribe leaders, but the teacher of our Huna group. And he was raised and adopted into the Huna tradition. He's not of Hawaiian descent, but he was brought into this group and adopted by one of the Hawaiian shaman people in his family lineage. And the teachings, it just felt it felt like again, like home. It just felt like, oh, well, of course, that's what we do. And it was stuff that I was already doing, but it just put it in a format that it just made sense. There are 7 principles, and it's just good living. The power is now, and the spirit of aloha. Let giving of yourself and receiving the good, and finding those ways that you can communicate with the world that you're actually putting good out there instead of just taking. It's a very symbiotic kind of practice.
Yeah, and I guess I want to hear what it did for you. When you heard of practice, what did that mean for you specific?
It just kind of gave me a framework. It gave me a framework and it gave me an identity, not, oh, I'm in the Huna world, but it gave me, I was like, oh, these are my people.
Mm,
These people understand, these people live the way I live. They may not have the same full belief system. And Huna is a philosophy. You can be a Christian, you can be a Muslim, you can be a whatever you are and follow Huna principles. It's kind of like how the Buddhist tradition is in the same vein. It's for anybody, it's for everybody, you know? It's just ways of living. It just gave me some framework when I needed it, when things felt disheveled and unsteady. As I was rebuilding literally my world. I was rebuilding my beliefs and I was rebuilding how I wanted to be in the world. So that was a very big connection for me.
mm,
And then I realized they have what's called alakai, which is learning the teachings and teaching the teaching of this philosophy. And they had a program. So I went through that program and studied under the other alakai and learned the ways of being able to disseminate this into the world. So I, in a very subtle way, use this in my counseling and in my work with people in general in the world, just
mhm.
kind of putting that out there to just little tidbits here and there. Just here, let me give you a little of that. And it's not, oh, let me teach you. Huna. It's here's a cool concept. Think about this, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I like that.
And from that, I learned that bumping into philosophies, bumping into ways of being, it's not like you have to ascribe to one thing. You don't have to say, I am fill in the blank. You can be of many different facets and just have them all in your little shiny diamond, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like that's really something that you've done in a really cohesive and holistic way. is to pull things that resonate with your soul and incorporate it into the way that you are making meaning and connecting with the more than human world.
Yeah. One of the principles is that all power comes from within. And so when you tap into yourself and when you know, we were talking about earlier, what your energy feels like, who am I? What am I doing here? What am I feeling of myself? Now I know what I can do to pass that on. I can put that out in the world and I can just use that as my foundation. When we externalize and we go outside of ourselves to look for the thing that's going to make us happy or fix our thing, we lose the power. We give the power to something external and it makes us feel small and
Mm.
it's not where it's at anymore. That's it.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to my last question, my ending question, I am just going to open up the space for anything else that you want to share before we close out.
No, I think this was a beautiful experience and just really just kind of a continuation of the feeling that I had in the woods and 30 years ago on the volcano. These events, these offerings just keep popping up. And I'm learning to trust that more and just go, yeah, sure, what are you doing? I want to do it. So I think my big takeaway from this is just to continue to let Claire open some doors
Mm-hmm.
and walk through them and not sit still.
Yeah, that it's the ongoing yes to
Yeah.
invitation. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I like to leave our listeners with something to savor from you. So it is usually something that is maybe been profound for you, to a mantra that you've said to yourself, or to things that you say to yourself when you really need those words.
I think the biggest thing, and this is something that, again, that I share with a lot of my clients, is know thyself, trust thyself, honor thyself, express thyself.
Mm.
It's not just about the one thing, it's about knowing and it's about trusting and it's about honoring it and then putting it out there. The world needs more of us putting our stuff out there, the good stuff.
Mhm.
Whatever you've learned, even if it's something uh, you think it's small, it's not, it's big to somebody. Express it, say it, draw it, sing it, play it, whatever it is, dance it, scream it, whatever feels right. But just I think the world needs more. Howard Thurman, I can't remember exactly the quote, but something to the effect of whatever brings you joy, whatever lights you up, go do that because the world needs more of people who have woken up and become themselves and are willing to share themselves.
If something in this story spoke to you, you can find ways to engage more deeply with our guests' work through the links connected to this episode. The Spacious Unknown is a living, shared space, and I encourage you to consider adding your voice to the conversation. If you feel the pull to share your own unfolding story, follow the Share Your Story link in the show notes. If you're feeling drawn to explore your own spiritual life more deeply, I've also included information about spiritual companioning. The Spacious Unknown is part of Unfurl, my publication on Substack, and is produced by Embodied Conversations, LLC. Thank you for being here and for listening with care. Until next time, may you keep listening for what is true as you move through the wide and spacious unknown.